Hi, so today in class we were talking about converting metric measurements. We looked a little bit at the metric system, how it really makes a lot of sense, and how there's really only three places in the world where we do not have the metric system really in full effect. Liberia, uh, Burma, or Myanmar, and the United States. So we were looking at how we can use the metric measurement and our ratios to create some proportions and convert units really easily. So we'll start off with an example. Let's say we had 5 meters and we wanted to convert that into millimeters. So we follow the steps that we came up with in class. Our first step was to make a ratio using what we have and what we want. So we have 5 meters. I'm going to write my units down when I set this up just to keep track of where things go. Equals x millimeters. Okay. And then we'll set our equal sign, and we're going to pick a ratio that shows the relationship between these. So we should all have our notes from today, and we would look for meters and millimeters. And we can see we have two options to choose from. 1 millimeter equals 1/1000th of a meter, or 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. I don't know about you, but I think it's usually a little easier to work with tens, hundreds, and thousands than working with the decimal points. So I'm going to pick this one, though I could pick either. Now I'm going to pay close attention to the meter and the millimeter difference, and I'll look at my equation or my ratio. I have meters on top, so I'm going to keep my meters on top because I'm using a proportional ratio. So I would have 1 meter is the same as 1,000 millimeters. So we have our units the same on the top and on the bottom. And once we get to this point, it's just a matter of cross multiplying and dividing if necessary. So I think of grouping them across this equal sign. I have x times 1, which is the same thing as x, equals 5 times 1,000. If I'm multiplying by 1,000 or 10 or 100, I can always just count the zeros, 1, 2, 3, and that means I will be moving the decimal point 3 places. So 5, 5, I would go 1, 2, 3, fill in each space with a 0. So x is equal to 5,000. And since my units up here were millimeters, put millimeters, I can also put my answer now up there, 5,000 millimeters. And I can think about that, thinking of how big a meter stick is, how small a millimeter is, and that seems like a reasonable answer. We'll do one more of these. This time we'll do something with liters. Now remember, the prefixes all do the exact same thing, no matter what type of unit you're talking about. So whether you're talking about grams and weight, or liters and volume, capacity, you could also call it, that you follow the same steps and the conversions are the same, which is why everyone uses the metric system. It just makes sense. You only have to learn a couple of things and you can do everything with it. And all the measurements will make sense to you. So I have, let's say, 17 milliliters. Remembering the liter sign is usually, or symbol is usually a capital L, equals how many liters? So I'm going to write a ratio with what I have and what I want to change it into. So I would have 17 milliliters over x liters. Look at my table right here and see if I can find the milliliters and liters. And I'm going to use the fact that when we do this, we could say, well, there are 1,000 milliliters in a liter. So I'm going to keep my units in the same spot. 1,000 milliliters, milliliters, milliliters. 1 liter at the bottom. Units match. Cross multiply. That gives me 1,000 x equals 17. I have to solve this equation, so I'm going to look at the x's on the left side. So I'm going to divide by this 1,000. That will cancel all those out. And I have to do 17 divided by 1,000. Same thing, count the zeros. I have 3 zeros here. So I would take 17 decimal point is at the end, move it over 3 times to the left, 1, 2, 3, fill in any empty spaces with a 0, so I'm getting x equals 0.017 liters, which I can also put up here, 0.017 or 17 thousandths of a liter. Makes sense again, a milliliter is very small, so if I'm converting it to a liter, even if I have a bunch of them, I'm still going to have a very small number. So this can work for any type of metric conversion, and we should have a lot of them written down on our table that you can look at.